Hello, my name is Ben Reagans, and today I'll be talking about China's household registration system, or the Hukou as it's referred to, and how it affects rural and migrant families and their access to education. The Hukou is a system that China put in place in the 1950s that accords the people of China the rights and obligations based on their birth status. It determines their degree of access to several different things as listed here, but for this presentation I will be focusing primarily on education. The modern system was formalized in 1958 to manage labor and mobility and to ensure structural stability in China. The Hukou divided the country between urban and rural sectors. Now this is because at the time of the founding of the People's Republic of China, the economy was very much agricultural based. But to make that leap forward into rapid industrialization, China started giving favorable treatment to the rural Hukou to stimulate growth in the industrial sector. By the 1980s, this was in full swing as big cities in China began to boom, and this created the division between urban and rural Hukous to become problematic. To counteract this, the rural families began migrating to the big cities seeking jobs. There were countless jobs, mostly in construction, as the country rapidly developed. So many of these migrant families, including their children, were brought into the big city to fill these jobs. But because of the Hukou, the children brought with them didn't have access to the state-funded education that they were guaranteed. To get that, they would have to go back to their rural families. So what you have then is a population of students in big cities. In some cities like Beijing, roughly 30% of the student population that can't have access because of the Hukou to the state-funded education. I have a video here that kind of summarizes better.
So around a third of Beijing's migrant children depend on private schools like this one, Blue Sky Elementary. Local authorities provide occasional donations of equipment and furniture, but it's almost entirely funded by fees of 600 yuan, or around £60 a term. Despite the Spartan surroundings, its dedicated teachers offer its pupils the best start they can. But it's one of around 30 such schools which NGOs say are faced with demolition thanks to redevelopment. Up to 10,000 children in Beijing could be affected. Authorities have promised to help the pupils find new schools, but activists fear some could simply drop out of schooling. And hundreds have already been sent to live with relatives in the countryside. Head teacher Ma, a migrant himself, fears that could be a mistake.
这些孩子可以说大部分是生在北京，长在北京，所以可以说，要是现在让这一波的孩子回到他们的原籍、他们的家乡，甚至可能他就生活跟家乡那个生活不能够融洽，他们是新一代的城市的新公民。
While some schools are likely to close forever, he says he's just found a new location where he can reopen this one. That's good news for families like Hukui's, who hope an education will help her to build a more secure future, and perhaps even allow her to join a profession like medicine or the police.
So what we have there is an example of the migrant families living in a big city and how their Hukou affects their access to education. Private schools like that charge families 600 yuan a year for access to education because they don't meet the requirements for the state-funded. Since education is only required for 9 years of a student's life, many of the families fear that if they do move back to their hometowns, that they will then drop out and just be a member of the workforce and not really kind of break out of where they came from. Another interesting aspect of this problem is that currently, as of 2014, China is beginning a rapid migration of these migrant families. As the cities of like Beijing, Guangzhou, all the big major megacities of China are being overhauled once again, these families are being evicted from the neighborhoods that they have moved into and moved into smaller cities to hopefully double China's GDP by 2020. And I can only imagine, again, the effect of this forced moving, what it has on what effect it has on the children and how it affects their access to education. Thank you very much for your time. I look forward to reading and watching everyone else's presentations.